Fam. I hope you're well, as always. If hopefully this episode is finding you in a good space, and if it's not in a good space and place, then hopefully by the end of this episode, you will be there or find yourself in a better one. I do want to preface this before you continue to listen to say that I've had a series of weeks that have rolled into one another, but have taught me a good bit about some of my stinking thinking. And in this episode, I mean to kind of aim to tell you how humility is a trap and how and why it's a trap. How can we reframe our thinking when it comes to humility and this idea of playing small? And then just how can I weave this and pose a question to you and get you to be these thought leaders and thought listeners that you've already been? I can't continue without shouting out my new Gumbeaux Fam. You know who you are. If you just started listening because you stumbled upon our episode because of some of our amazing guests, right? One most recently, my beautiful friend Raquel. And I've seen how y'all been running up the numbers on that and then going back and revisiting and digging deeper into the growth of the gumbo. I thank you. I thank you for listening. I thank you for taking the time to even critique the episodes and for some of us that's paying attention to the little buttons on the Spotify and the Apple platforms, you're seeing text us, you're seeing, hey, tell me something about the show, tell me how you're watching. If you're listening now, you can click those buttons and interact with me and us here at the Gumbeaux Fam. Tell us who you want to see on the episode, what do you want to hear. But until then, until I see those inboxes, you will hear me tear myself apart because that's exactly what the gumbo is. It is me adding a bunch of ingredients to this thing we call life, because life is a big, big, big pot of gumbo, and we're entering a new fall season. For many of us, this is our harvest season. This is where we get to reap, and for a lot of us, this is where our lessons are and our blessings are colliding. And I'm hoping that for you. So let me just crack into this episode. First thing I wanted to say is what humility is, right? In the context of it, I don't want to go into the Merriam-Webster of it all, but I do want to tell you that my ideology of humility is always rooted biblically in what the Bible teaches us and what God's principle comes into being humble. He honors that. God honors humility in the sense of elimination of ego, elimination of pride, when you're not boastful, right? And there are some scriptures in the Bible that talk to us about being very certain and sure of ourselves and to boast about our weaknesses, okay? I want y'all to go deeper into that too. If you ever want to take a deep dive, even if you want to jump on Google and see where it points you to the direction, I want you to look up that boast about our weaknesses. What does the Bible tell us about boasting about our weaknesses? I will paraphrase and say the Bible tells us that if you have this ideology of perfection, be mindful that you're never going to reach it, but also know that being very aware when you are weak and rejoicing in those weaknesses gives God an opportunity to come in, step in, and actually be that in the gap for you. Our weaknesses expose the need that we need help. Our weaknesses expose the areas that God can step into. Our weaknesses exposes our humanity. The difference is at times we think our weaknesses are tied into being humble, right? And I say are because I have this false pretense, and you could probably fit in this bubble with me when I explain that humility, when misunderstood, can become a trap. It is something that can cage your freedom. It is something that can silence your voice. It is something that could dim your light. Humility is not something we're born with. Some might argue that. And I'll just go to tell you that child psychology tells us, and you can see if you're in child rearing, you have your children of your own, if you're growing up, your aunt, uncle, anything around children, if you're in early childhood development, it doesn't matter where you are. You see a child, look at them how free they are. Children are born with this egotistical framework, very egocentric, right? Very id driven. And I'm using a lot of psychological terminology. All that means is that instant gratification is at the forefront. If I'm a child, I know what I want, right? I think I know. If I want water, my question to my adult people is, hey, can I have some water? The adult person might say, sure, you can have some water. Depending on the speed in which I get the water, I might associate that with the fact that, okay, I can ask for anything and I'll get it. Instant gratification becomes that norm for a child depending on the speed in which the adult meets the need. Okay, let's start there. So everything is about the child because it appears that way. The world bends to the child at times, many times, depending on the child's age. And then later in life, we begin to learn that we have to bend to it, meaning society. So we reach an age in our development where everything around us can't quite meet the need. We have to now meet its need. So what does that mean? Perform at school at a certain level in which, hey, y'all told me I could do anything. I got up and walked at 10 months old and you clapped for me and I was able to feed myself. I learned how to ride a bike and this and that, and now you're telling me I have to do work and I have to get up at a certain time. I have to eat a certain thing. I can't have chocolate at 12 a.m. Why not? So things become less egotistical and it's like a more narrow minded. I have rules. I'm saying all this to say humility comes into play when we learn these rulings because in some way, shape, or form we've been taught that being humble is appreciated. As a matter of fact, when somebody compliments you, you say thank you. That's humility. Or you could be self-deprecating. And this is what I mean. So for instance, hey, Sagan, that's a pretty shirt you got on. Purple is your color. This old thing, oh, I got this from Goodwill. A simple thank you could suffice and probably did suffice early on, but what became a thank you became a, oh, it's not that great. I wish I had something different. Self-deprecating is a learned behavior. Deprecation is a learned behavior, right? It's something that leans into what people say being humble because nobody wants to hear a response like, you look amazing. Oh, I know. I know. I've even recently watched a video where I saw a dad and a daughter interact, and he said, "Ooh, you're doing so good. You drive so well." And she said, "I know." She was driving a little go-kart. And he said, "Don't ever say I know. Don't ever say I know. When someone tells you um, you're doing something good, you're doing something well, you say thank you. Do you understand me?" And she was like, "Yes, sir." It's not to say he doesn't have a point in teaching humility. But it does come at a cost when we begin to see what is a traditional view of humility, what was its stance. And to be honest, I believe biblically humility became as an acknowledgement of God's greatness, right? How big he is and how serving others really is an act of humility, and how not being too big, too prideful. Prideful means I could do everything by myself. I don't need anything and need anyone, which means I won't submit to anything. That omission of pride and that you an admittance, let me say that, and the admittance or just saying I admit that I need somebody is humble. It's you being humble. What modern society has taught us is that to twist it, when we shrink ourselves, when we play small, when we dim our light, when we talk about or when we don't accept right offhand a compliment or things of that nature, that feels better to, but whom you're doing that for? I'm jumping ahead and my mind is like racing, y'all. So like on myself about this because in some way, shape, or form, we are making the other person or other persons around us that might hear this compliment or the person that, we try to deflect. No, I love what you got on. Let's talk about what you got on. And I've done this so many times that it's become second nature for me that I can big up anyone else, but please do not turn that spotlight on me. When the lights go down and you are trying to maybe sell yourself in a way that now you have to show people what you've done and how you've done it, and now tell us what you're doing. It could be very difficult for you to even say something great about yourself. Why? Because you, number one, have difficulty accepting it from others. You've deflected so much that, it's not absorbed. Because again, if you think about what deflection is, it's literally propelling the light. So you haven't had time to even take in what someone else has taken you, let alone believe something you have said about yourself. So are you self-affirming? Because that modern society, we've become conditioned to believe that hiding our brilliance, that toning down our voice, that putting our dreams on layaway, that's humility. But it's not. It's actually self-erasure. And I had to look that up. I'm like, okay, Chad, tell me what we talking about. Years of this, it just leaves you totally disconnected, and it honestly affects how you show up in every other way, in every which way you intended to. You don't even recognize who you are, and when people ask you to express yourself or explain yourself, you find difficulty doing so because you haven't built a comfort level with it. So it's a balance, an imbalance, honestly, that we've created, but a balance that we now have to start to restore, because you have to now sell yourself on something you don't even believe in, something you haven't even invested in or took the time to say, am I bought in and I'm on board? Am I playing for my own team, so to speak? So why it's a trap? Well, humility cages the true self. And I'm talking about modern day humility. I'm not talking about biblical humility. I'm talking about what society wants you to do. Be humble, right? Sit down. When it's misapplied, it becomes a mask, y'all. You start confusing like meekness with smallness. You mistake suppression for strength. So hear me out. You just don't want to be too boastful, too loud, too bright, because everyone else would be more comfortable if you weren't. That just further delays your purpose. Because if you continue to play small, you push your calling further from you. Further into the future, you push your dreams away because the admittance of that would make it real. You push your opportunities away as soon as they arrive because, of course, your mindset, your thinking is that you don't deserve it in some way, shape, or form, because you can't even accept a compliment and saying, boy, you are so deserving of this position. I'm so proud of you. You are so deserving of that home. I'm so proud that you finally got there. Oh, you are so deserving of where you are. You can't even fathom that coming to you. So you're unprepared to even accept it because you've been shrinking this whole time. So instead of sharpening yourself, right? This identity of confusion we create kind of gets you asking these questions. Am I really, you know, quiet? Am I being safe? Am I an agreeable person? Is this me being kind-hearted? Or is this just who I've become because now I've caged myself, right, for acceptance? Because other people appreciate a humble person, right? Who wants somebody that's boastful? Because boastful means that, or sure of themselves, can come off as arrogant or egotistical, or this person's pompous. Every word, you pull out the thesaurus on anything that has to do with somebody being sure of themselves, and when they talk about themselves in that way, oh, they need to humble themselves. The other thing is just kind of reframing that I mentioned, is the playing small. Because true humility isn't denying your light. It's actually knowing your light comes from that source, right? It comes from God. Being bold enough to say, hey, it's from Him, so I can use this. That's exactly what God wants you to do. He wants you to shine it. So cue in this little light of mine right at this moment. You can be humble, y'all. Y'all can be unapologetically powerful at the same time. You can actually accept that humility is going to open doors for service, your ability to service others. That's going to be, humility is more of an act, right? Not, ooh, okay, this is coming to me in the way in which I'm going to just say it's more of an act of service, not an act, right? Don't pretend to be humble to be accepted. Um, it's an action. It's something that you show. It's something that you can do for others, in my humble opinion. And it doesn't keep you locked in the same cage of fear that you have, whether it's fear of rejection, whether it's fear of success, right? Whether it's fear of failure. And those are some things that I really pondered these past few weeks. It's like, there's a Napoleon Hill quote out there that says fears are nothing more than a state of mind. But if fear is just in our head, and of course it's, fear drives that thought of humility, then why does it have so much power over our lives? Like, why are we so stifled by it? And at sometimes it feels like fears of all these other things seem to, right, like, to the point where it's becoming our truth, right? I've had recently, and I'll say this and try to close here and just say that I've had recently had exposure and tears. I've cried in these past couple weeks because just frustrated. I've compared myself and my things materialistically to people things. Like, I don't have this, I don't have this and this and this. And I had to sit back and I'm like, and if you had all of those things, how would you feel? Would you feel any more you? Would you feel any more whole? Any more that? Whatever. Put in the blank of whatever that is. And the answer was absolutely no, because I really honestly, at the root of it, don't want those things for me. I want those things for others to see that I'm blessed. Because for some reason, the concept of being blessed means that you have. The concept of being blessed means I can show for it. Not realizing what my life already looks like to other people from the lens of what God has already done. I'm good where I am. So I had to coach myself these past few weeks to say, Sagan, right where you are is where you need to be. Everything, and a mentor had told me this, anywhere God plants you, He wants you to grow. So every mistake I've made, every choice I've made, every poor position, every boss I've had, every friend and foe that I've made, all of those were intentional and ordered in order to get me exactly where I'm supposed to be. And none of them were failures. All of them was purposeful. Everything happens on purpose. Everything's aligned. And so I've had to really coach myself up to say, Sagan, you're fine. With or without the opportunities, with or without the extra stuff, right where you are, you're fine. As a matter of fact, you're so fine from where you used to be. So I've stayed in a moment of gratitude. I've combated. That's been my key to success when I've felt very, how am I put this just plainly? I just felt like a failure. I felt like I haven't done enough. I don't have anything to show for it. And I think someone else would probably be like, you are tripping. But that is the warped mindset that you have when you are in this toxic humility. And I think for me, humility made me stupid. I'm going to explain for a moment, and I said it out loud Friday as well. What it did was allow me to say yes to things that I honestly wasn't comfortable with, to bend again, to just because I was so focused on the happiness of other people, the pleasing of that, and not really sure of my no, that my no and my assertion was the confidence that I needed to exude. Humility kept me really bound in a way, of not trusting my decisions because in some way, shape, or form, I felt like other decisioning, right, was better than my own. I hadn't put it in my voice into practice enough to fully say that you know exactly what you're talking about. You're good. It's going to take a moment of, and this is the tough part for you all, is to make sure you take a moment and look yourselves in the mirror and ask yourself, what's holding me hostage? Who's holding me back? And maybe asking those two questions might be the thing, like, what's holding me hostage? Who's holding me back? And to be honest, it's okay for you to not have an answer to those questions just yet. You might say, I don't know. To the first one, I don't know who's holding me hostage. Who's holding me back? If the answer is no one, it's likely you holding you back. And then you have to ask yourself why. That one question, why, is one of the most raw. It's the purest question you can ask. It's the purest questions you can ask anyone. You can say why, and you can continue to ask why to it could build on ideas. But why? And to be honest, if you don't have an idea of the why, if you don't really know, then there should be absolutely nothing standing in your way. And if it's you in your way, then you really do have to focus on how to step aside. Okay? My hope and prayer for you is that don't let humility keep you stupid. I'm just gonna put it like that. And that's just stupidity in the sense of ignorance, like willful ignorance. You know better now because the only thing that's keeping you afraid is you. You're afraid of your voice. Trust it. Try it a few times. I think trying it on for size, using your voice at random times, you're going to have to put into practice so you could trust yourself a little bit more. But for me, in these last few weeks, what has been very telling is that I still have a lot more growth to do and to go. And instead of being frustrated by that, I welcome that. I think that's another thing. We're like, man, by now, by 37, I think I would have gotten this by now, you know. I don't subscribe to that any longer. Age is a blessing. To be able to live beyond and to grow and to age is a gift. To get older is a gift. And to be honest, if I stop growing, then it's my time to go and leave this earth. I'm going to continue to find aspects of myself to grow. And this is just one thing, is to identify what humility really is in God's eyes, and to not think that shrinking has any part or any room in that design. It doesn't. And not thinking that silencing myself or not showing up. Show up, y'all. Show up. All that means is that be you. No one else is you. No one else can be you. No one else could tell the joke you could tell. They're probably doing the same thing you're doing, but no one can do it like you. You have value. You add value to every room you walk into, every conversation you have, to every moment that you've taken out of your day to someone, to the hug, to the walk, to the handshake, to the hello, to the goodbye. You are you, and you're one of one. And that's cliche, but it's the truth. When you begin to, again, co-sign that ideology that no one is me and no one will do it like me, you win. Period. Now, I feel like that's the episode for the evening. I do want to tell you that I guess a call to hire would be the world doesn't need a watered down version of you. What the world needs is you brave. What the world needs is you to show up unafraid. What the world needs is that if you are afraid, to do it anyway. And all I need from you is a big hug virtually. I love y'all. Thank y'all so much for listening. And next time.